First, I'll actually point out that their primary tactic is what's called mid-level violence. It's a form of political violence where you are engaging in a type of provocation that's just like a toe over the line or a foot over the line without going all the way over the line. And they do that specifically because they either want you to back down, in which case they win, or they want you to react, in which case they will film you and make it look like you overreacted so they can create the smear campaign to destroy you and force you to back down or force you to be silenced or move on. It's a very strategic manipulation, and it's called mid-level violence, and it's actually well documented. We're just politically, in terms of political warfare in the United States, we're all fairly ignorant, but Antifa's not. Now, as to their claim that they need to exist, I'll give them some credit. In the 1940s and 50s, when they were coming together, 30s, there was some truth to that. But this is not true any longer. So it's just a BS pretext so they can keep living out Herbert Marcuse's wet dream of refusing the entire society and pretending that we live in a state that he called repressive tolerance, where the right wing, the Christo-fascists, and all of these people are actually recruiting and actively growing, and that these communities actually needed protection. I'm sorry, guys, that died. That's not real. That stopped being real in Western nations a long time ago. I'm not saying that there's no right-wing fanatics. I'm not saying that's true. I'm saying that actually there's no need to protect from them through street militancy any longer. That's a fantasy that's dead at least 40 years. And you can say whatever you want, but if I were going to tell somebody who was a thoughtful person shaking a little bit loose from Antifa and that mentality, what I would tell them is, you, Antifa, are the primary cause of the thing that you claim to be fighting. So you're creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're pissing people off to the point where they react against you and they become reactionaries because you're using these mid-level violence provocations that piss people off and don't give them due pathways to recourse. So they're left with, well, if you're going to make me look bad, I'm going to deserve to look bad. And then you have entities like the Proud Boys showing up and being total dickheads. So they are creating the thing that they use to justify their own existence, which in other words is snake oil. The best case that they can make for themselves is a snake oil argument that because what was historically no longer is, and their idea that systems and structures are infinitely self-perpetuating, which is a Marxist belief about how the bourgeoisie rig society and dictate ideologies to keep themselves in power and to exclude certain other voices, is actually just a projection of how Marxists think, which is again why, as political prostitutes, they should really think twice about what they're supporting, because they're not useful to a regime except destabilizing the existing thing. Destabilizers are not useful to a regime that wants to be sustainable. And so they're going to be done away with or locked up or house arrested or put on the most strict forms of social credit limiting that anybody in this society is going to have. And they can whine and cry and piss and moan and try to mid-level violence a regime, a real regime, not a free country that allows them to get away with mid-level violence, and see what happens to them. They wouldn't get away with this shit in China, I'll tell you that right now. The Chinese government, if somebody tried to do what Antifa does in China, would smash their asses so hard, they'd all be in standing room only prisons under Tiananmen Square until they die. That only works in free countries. It only works in the place exactly that is not what they say. So they're selling snake oil.